Great day. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence was defined by Goleman, where he said it's a unique human capacity to not just react, but actually to think about the emotions. So that's a really big definition, and let's try to break it down into this practical step. So we, every day, if you were to Google this, every day we go through these 5 steps. These 5 steps, first of all, we have the event happening. Now, the event is usually triggered by our 5 senses, and then the event triggers our thoughts. Now, the thoughts means we are thinking something, and the thought is triggering our biological, physiological reaction. Okay, and because of these chemicals, we experience an emotion. Okay. And after all of this, we have an action or a reaction. Okay. Now, if we see what each one of these steps does, it's easier for us to interpret and know what to do. So, let's get into this. So, first of all, our 5 senses triggers the event. So let's say I'm tripping you. And now, as you're falling down, because I've touched you, you're now thinking something as you're falling. And as you're thinking something, it's triggering your biological reaction where your body is releasing adrenaline. Now, this adrenaline will tell your body, you have to hurry up, something's going to happen, be ready. And then it makes you experience an emotion of scaredness maybe. And then when you fall down, you catch the ground. And the catching of the ground is the action or reaction. Now, in that instance, if you fell down, you look at the person that tripped you, and if you see them smiling at you, it's triggering the next event to happen. And then you're having a thought like, oh, that guy did it on purpose. And then that switches on biology and emotion of anger, maybe you're feeling, and then the action reaction, that is where you're actually going to grab the person, or stand up, walk away, and cry, and something like that. So each one of these spaces does something. It's okay. So the emotion, we're not supposed to suppress it. Emotional intelligence does not imply suppressing it. If you're suppressing it, it's going to build up. Okay. So let's try it this way for a moment. Okay. Let's just take this away. There we go. Okay. So your brain works like a roadmap in a library with all of these books everywhere. Books like the first time that you kissed someone, the first time that you hugged, the first time you passed the test, failed the test, things like that. Now, because of the emotions, it makes the road very thick all of a sudden. But if you have to repeat the information, your brain runs this road up and down. And that's making the information memorable, the repetition of it. Now, when we look at emotional intelligence, if you're suppressing an emotion, that means that the connection to that event, like me tripping someone, is connected to this book, and this book is building up. And whenever someone trips you accidentally or on purpose, your brain goes fetches this and says, this person is bullying me, and then you explode. But maybe it was an accident. Maybe you cannot see that this was a surprise, an accident to me. So by having this built-up emotion, many times we overreact. So a part of emotional intelligence is also emotional literacy, where we have the ability to name emotions. And that's already difficult. Okay, so emotions shouldn't be suppressed. It shouldn't be given the control in your life, the steering wheel. No. We should use emotions as an alarm clock that goes off and tells us, hey, something happened in our thoughts. In our thoughts, we have a deep thought that's usually hidden away, and a second thought that's in your face. You can't miss it. Okay, the secondary thought leads to a reaction, and a reaction means that you are being controlled. Okay. But the deeper thought, if we dig to it, causes us to have an action. An action means you have control. Okay. Which one would you like to have in your life? The reaction or the action? Which one? Because if you want to have an action, which I'm guessing is your answer, it means you'll have to dig to this deeper thought. And to dig there, we have to use the shovel. We need to use the shovel of why. Now, please humor me. Okay. If someone trips you and it makes you angry, why does that bother you? And if you tell me, but it's going to hurt. Okay, so that would mean if I trip you and you fell on a mattress, it would be fine, then I can trip you. If the answer is still no, pain is not the issue. There's something else. And that's where we need to get to. If you tell me, oh, but you did it on purpose, I want you to try and keep the ball in your hands. Don't pass it to me or whoever. Why give us the control? Because if you say, I did it on purpose, now I have control. Now I can tell you, okay, but yeah, it was an accident, but not really. Oh no, yeah, sorry, it was on purpose. Right? So you're giving me control over your feelings. Why do you want to do that? Didn't you say you want to have an action? You want to have control. Then you have to keep the ball and ask yourself, why does this bother you? Okay. So try doing that. Now, if we have to talk about stress, I want to ask you, in which one of these steps do we find stress? Which one of these is the house of stress? Where can we find it? Would you say it's an action, reaction? Would you say it's an event, a thought? What would you say is it? Where does stress live? The answer is, if you put stress at an event, it means stress is out to get you. You don't know what's going to happen next. So stress, it's waiting to pounce on you, and you're not okay. But if you say stress is a thought, then all we have to do is we need to change your thoughts about stress, and then stress is not a problem anymore. If you say it's an emotion, then my advice is just wait. Stress will solve itself, because our emotions fluctuate. It goes up and down throughout the day. But the thing is, stress is actually a biological, physiological reaction. When you stress, there's chemicals being released here. And yes, it's influenced by your perception. I get that. So if your body is releasing these chemicals, which is usually cortisol and adrenaline and oxytocin, if we look at these chemicals, the chemicals of stress, it's fascinating to see that the chemicals of stress and the chemicals of excitement is the same. We just label it differently. So stress, that's bad stuff. Excitement, that's good stuff. But it's the same chemicals. So let's try and see things differently. So in your biological reaction, when let's talk about oxytocin. Oxytocin is our social hormone. So when you're experiencing stress, what your body is actually saying is, oxytocin is a social hormone, so go and socialize to calm down. When we experience stress, your brain is like a fist, and now you're putting pressure on it, and it goes like this, your brain. This is the brain stem. This is the fight or flight. This is not a good thinking brain. So if you go socialize, your brain opens up, then you can solve a problem. So with the biological reaction and the oxytocin being released, we need to listen to what our biological body is saying. Okay? As an example, when I feel stressed, what I do is I mow my lawn. Reason why I do that is, when I feel stressed, remember, this goes like this. By mowing my lawn, I'm giving myself time to just relax first. Okay? And because mowing a lawn is exercise for me, that means endorphins is being released, which is the exercising chemical. And it's usually a nice, happy feeling, calm. So now, after mowing my lawn, my brain is calm, relaxed, and even happy. Now, when I deal with any problem, I deal with it out of this place of happy calmness. And the solutions is just way better. Okay. So, if we talk about stress, it's a biological reaction. We need to see what it's doing. Okay. And we need to reappraise the event that's happening. Why, remember, why is this stressful for you? Why is writing a test stressful? Why? Is it because you're scared of failing? Is that the reason? Why are you scared of failing? So, continuing asking this why question helps us to reappraise what's actually happening in our deeper thoughts. And the extra benefit is this. In this deeper thought we have, that's actually where the real you is hiding. But before you get there, there's usually things that we don't like to admit. Okay, and that's emotional intelligence. A practical way of seeing it in a nutshell. Have a great day.